Hey guys, before I begin, I just want to say that this video, or I guess the recording of it, was made before Shadow was revealed to be a playable character in Sonic Forces. So I believe at the end of this video, or towards the end, I say something about, well, what if Shadow becomes playable in the next Sonic game? And that's really just because I didn't know he was going to be playable in this game at the time of this recording. I made this like I think a month before that was gonna be a thing, or is it to be a thing? So yeah, just disregard that part where I say that. Other than that, I guess enjoy the video. What's up, guys? This is Spawnerzilla, and today I'll be giving you my thoughts and opinions on why Shadow the Hedgehog is stronger than you may think. Now, before I begin, I think that I should state that I might sound a little biased towards Shadow, and that might be because he's my favorite character from the Sonic franchise. And as such, I emphasize that this video is stating my opinion, and if you have your own thoughts and opinions on this subject, then go right ahead and state them in the comment section down below. Now, for starters, let's talk about Shadow's abilities. We all know about his Chaos powers, such as Chaos Control, Chaos Spear, and the Chaos Blast. However, Shadow has way more moves to his arsenal than he shows at one time. For example, in the 2006 game Sonic the Hedgehog, you can give Shadow a boost in power known as Chaos Boost. When activated, it temporarily increases Shadow's power by an unknown amount. For you anime fans out there, it's kinda like Goku's Kaioken power-up, without the drawbacks that come with it. While in Chaos Boost mode, Shadow you can use an ability called Chaos Lance, which is like a powered-up version of the Chaos Spear. Another obscure attack that Shadow has is only seen in the game Sonic Chronicles Dark Brotherhood. In this game, not only is Shadow using Chaos Blast in a way that's similar to shooting beams of energy in DBZ, but he also uses another move known as the Chaos Rift, which according to the Sonic Wiki, has the ability to send the unfortunate soul outside the boundaries of space-time. In other words, it removes you from the universe. Aside from his Chaos powers, Shadow has been known to be able to do many of the same moves as Sonic, such as the Spin Dash, Homing Attack, and that one boost move that makes you move really fast and just bash enemies out of your way. Another ability that both Sonic and Shadow share is the ability to use the 7 Chaos Emeralds to go Super. In this case, it would be Super Shadow. And just like Sonic can, Shadow also gets a speed and strength increase as well as a boost in power for all his Chaos powers. The only attack that was seen to be exclusive to his super form was the Spear of Light, likely just an upgrade from the Chaos Lance though. Another ability that I've only seen him do in this state was using Chaos Control to teleport objects other than himself, such as the Space Colony Arc, to long distances. The last ability I want to touch up on is only theoretical and only has been seen in some fanfiction such as Nazo Unleashed. But basically, since Sonic can turn the Chaos Emeralds into Super Emeralds and use them to transform from Supersonic to Hypersonic, it's generally assumed that Shadow, being way more well-versed in the usage of Chaos Energy, and was also given the ability to go Super, should be able to undergo this transformation as well. Unfortunately, since the Hyper Transformation's debut, it hasn't appeared and thus Shadow has never actually done it, but it can be implied that he can since he's Sonic's rival and all. Another thing I want to point out is that, thanks to Black Doom's DNA, Shadow has near immortality. By that I mean that he can't age, and unless someone or something kills him, Shadow can go on living forever. Also, it's a common misconception that Shadow needs a Chaos Emerald to teleport, when in actuality, he can do Chaos Control without any emeralds in his possession by tapping into the Chaos Force. However, the distances he can teleport are not as great without one. Thus why you would see him using Chaos Control with a Chaos Emerald, to enhance that ability. Now it's time to compare Shadow to the rest of the Sonic cast to see just where he stands. Shadow's established rivalry with Sonic has already put him leagues above almost the entire cast. The only characters that can even last against him, excluding main antagonists like Mephiles and Black Doom, are Blaze, Knuckles, Silver, Metal Sonic, and, well, Sonic, of course. Let's start with Blaze, since her powers are one of the most interesting ones, to me at least. She can basically manipulate fire using her pyrokinesis, has speed that matches Sonic's speed, and just like Sonic, she can use the solar elements to transform into burning blaze. I have personally never played any of the Sonic Rush games, but from what I've seen, Blaze can match up to Sonic in almost every way. That being said, Shadow could easily counter any speed-based moves Blaze would have by using any of his Chaos Control techniques, like the Chaos Snap and the original Chaos Control. You know, the one that freezes time, that one. I also believe that if Sonic can dodge her flame attacks, then so could Shadow, who could then counterattack with a variety of attacks such as the Spin Dash or Chaos Spear. I'm not gonna go into Blaze going, burning Blaze, because it'll essentially just be more a powered up version of what she can already do. And I already established what Shadow can do in his super state, so I think almost hands down, Shadow would be able to beat her. Would be able to overcome anything that Blaze can dish out at her, at him. So, yeah. Next is Knuckles, a character that would be more powerful than Shadow when it comes to brute physical strength, at least possibly. And that's all well and good, but I could see a fight between Shadow and Knuckles play out very similarly like a fight between Sonic and Knuckles. Sonic has been able to beat Knuckles just by being able to land more hits due to his speed, and dodging any hits that Knuckles can throw at him. Since Shadow can move at speeds that almost match Sonic's, like really, really close, he could do the exact same thing, with less mercy though, and more viciousness, since Shadow's attacks are meant to basically mortally kill someone. Silver was the next person I mentioned after Knuckles. I don't feel like I need to explain that much on why I think Shadow is stronger than Silver, but for you kiddies out there who weren't around when Sonic 06 was a thing, well, one thing, it was a thing. And two, the two characters actually did fight in the game, and Shadow came out the victor. Even though Silver could use his, and probably did use his, psychokinesis to grab a hold of Shadow from a distance, Shadow was able to fight Silver to a point where him and Silver were panting in exhaustion. After that, Silver tried to charge at Shadow, which ended like this.
Chaos Control!
Now granted, after that point onwards, Silver himself could also utilize Chaos Control, but since he only would know that one basic form of it, at its most basic level, Shadow could just stop him before he uses it, if he can see it coming. And given his experience using the Chaos Control technique himself, he should be more than capable of doing so, with his speed added to on that. So yeah, that just basically explains Silver's case. Now, above Silver, we have Metal Sonic. And the reason why I would rank him at a higher threat level to Shadow than Silver is because of two reasons. One being that he can move at speeds that are just as fast, if not faster, than Sonic himself, making him hard to land hits on. The other reason is because he can copy moves by scanning and analyzing them. Now, I know this was something that Neo Metal Sonic did, and there's all sorts of theories on like if it was the same Metal Sonic, if there's multiple Metal Sonics, and that there's two Metal Sonics and all that stuff. But I'm just talking about Metal Sonic in general. And I mean, to me, I feel like I've seen the original Metal Sonic being able to copy moves. But that's just me. If there's any confusion, just assume I'm talking about Neo Metal Sonic. I mean. Anyway, back to the point. This means that if he can potentially copy all of Shadow's techniques and use them against him. The only way Shadow can beat Metal Sonic is by then attacking him with moves that wouldn't be as devastating, in other words, none of his chaos moves, or Chaos moves, or take advantage of the time it takes for Metal Sonic to analyze his moveset. Plus, if worse comes to worse for Shadow, he can use the 2 trump cards that he has up his sleeve. The less likely one would be him quickly transforming into Super Shadow and just overwhelming him with that power-up. However, that can only be the case if he has all 7 Chaos Emeralds with him. The other more likely option is for Shadow to just take off some of those inhibitor rings he has on his wrists and ankles, which will do the same thing as his super form but less powerful. However, if he were to do that, it would come at the cost of his stamina, which he could possibly end up fainting from due to him being so tired. But by that point, Metal Sonic would have already been defeated, so it's still all good. Quick edit, I didn't actually script this, the following of what I'm about to say, but I forgot to add in the part where I describe the basic features of Shadow's ability to use his inhibitor rings, or I should say take off his inhibitor rings. So basically, Shadow has 4 inhibitor rings, 2 on his ankles and 2 on his wrist, obviously, and for a while, actually no, I should say for all Sonic games, almost all of them I should say, he never really takes them off. The only canon-wise time I've seen Shadow take them off was during his last cutscene in Sonic 06, or well, the last cutscene in his story. And he used it to basically take out a whole army of Nephilises, you know, that end cutscene part. I might have it playing in the video, I don't know. But, yeah, basically, it gives him a huge boost in power, and I don't know if I will state this in the video, actually. I'm not entirely sure if I did. But, yeah, in case I didn't, just know that basically this entire time that, almost the entire time that you've been seeing Shadow on screen, you've only been seeing him at, for all we know, it could be only 1/4 of his true power, or even less than 1/4. It could be like Shadow running on like 25%, and that's including all the times he went Super as well. And yes, Shadow could indeed use these inhibitor rings, take off the inhibitor rings while in the Super state. It'll just make him burn through his Super state even faster, but it's still something he could do. Now granted, he only did that in Sonic X, but who's to say he can't do that in the actual games themselves? There was just never a time where he really had to do that. So yeah, I just want to add that one part, you know. Last but not least is Sonic. Now, for those of us who have been around since the Adventure days, we already know that Sonic and Shadow have an intense rivalry that usually indicates them being equal in almost every possible way. This should go without saying, but I feel like I should mention this for the people who were only exposed to Shadow since the days of Sonic Colors onwards and have seen him in that game. In other words, games that hint at a rivalry, but show Sonic having the upper hand only because he is the main character, and just has to win every time. There were times when Shadow has beaten Sonic, but unfortunately, they both were non-canon moments. But still, the scenarios were accurate enough to be seen as proof that Shadow can defeat Sonic. The first of which came from Sonic X, where Sonic, well, I should say it was during the Meta X saga, by the way. Anyway, it was where Sonic and Shadow were on Tails' spaceship, and Shadow basically took out Sonic in one hit, or one attack, I should say. Now, one could make the argument that Sonic was defending Tails, Cosmo, and Chris, but to be taken out in one attack could only mean that Sonic was nowhere near Shadow's level at the time. The other instance was from the bad end of the Shadow the Hedgehog video game. Well, more like the evil ending. Here, Shadow was fighting not only Sonic, but some GUN mech unit at the same time. When I think about those fights, I start wondering if Shadow has ever really gone all out against Sonic in any of the canon fights that they had. The short answer was no. In any of their fights, Shadow would just counter Sonic's homing attack and spin dash with his own homing attack and spin dash, and then attack with a Chaos Spear or Chaos Control to warp to Sonic's location. And no, not at the same time usually. The only time where that really happened at the same time was during Sonic Adventure 2. All other times it was just basically Shadow spamming Chaos Spear. Like, that's the only attack that he can do. I mean, it's devastating and cool to look at sometimes, but it's not the only thing he could do against Sonic, you know. The only other times where he used other attacks besides those that were mentioned was in Sonic Chronicles Dark Brotherhood. But even then, it was against Sonic and 3 other guys that you chose. One of them being Knuckles, probably. Hypothetically, Shadow should be able to deal with everyone who isn't Sonic easily, so that shouldn't really be an issue. But because it's you, the player, that's playing against him, you must beat him to move on to the next stage, no matter what. So, it's hard to tell whether it's the player's ability or if it's really Shadow just being unable to fight against all those guys at once. And to me, I just doubt that Shadow wouldn't be able to take on Amy, Knuckles, and Tails at the same time, considering how Amy and Tails are way below Shadow's level. Knuckles would be the only liable person who would be able to stand up against Shadow aside from Sonic, but even so, if Sonic and Knuckles were teamed against Shadow, Shadow should still be able to at least take out one of them, and then be able to take out the other one subsequently later. Now the same could be said for all other Sonic games that Sonic has faced up against Shadow. To say that Sonic is the stronger character, based off of that logic, off the game's logic, is like saying that in Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 that PTS Rock Lee can basically beat Pain in a fight just because you have done so while playing as him in the game. While in the Naruto universe, it wouldn't even be a fight, but an embarrassment. Anyway, realistically, the only thing Sonic has over Shadow is speed, and that's about it. And I'm not even talking about combat speed, but just if they were to have a race where they're basically going in a straight line, Sonic would win. But that's really the only advantage Sonic really has over Shadow. Shadow can match, if not excel, at whatever else Sonic can do. At this point, I know somebody's going to ask, but Spinozilla, can't Sonic also use Chaos Control? And my response to that is, yes, but that doesn't mean Shadow. The reason is because while Sonic does know it, he can't use it to the same extent that Shadow can. Because he hasn't mastered it like Shadow has. Furthermore, all it takes is Sonic to mess up once and get hit by one attack to have Shadow continue with multiple attacks for a deadly combo. And I really mean deadly. I say deadly because unlike Sonic, Shadow is willing to kill his opponents if he deems them to be a threat to the world. And before he got his memories back, if they just gone his way. And during the events of Sonic Adventure 2, same thing, but, you know, for a much darker purpose. So in a fight to the death, death battle, Shadow would come out on top if he could manage to trap Sonic or just keep him from dodging his attacks. Sonic also best not go super, because all that does is let Shadow go super as well, since the Chaos Emeralds are right there. They would also close the speed gap, since it's been stated that in the Sonic Wiki that Shadow also gains a supersonic speed boost. This also goes without saying, but all his Chaos abilities are enhanced as a result of this super transformation as well. With all that going for him, it's hard to see Shadow going down in a one-on-one fight with any of the main cast, and even most of the villains for that matter. The only antagonists that gave Shadow a hard time were Black Doom and Mephiles the Dark. The only reason why Black Doom gave Shadow any trouble though was because he can also use the Chaos Control ability, and his paralysis move that he can use on Shadow since he has Black Doom's DNA in him. However, Shadow is able to overcome the paralysis by the end of the game, so that's a non-issue at least. That only leaves Mephiles the Dark, who was able to blast Shadow away a couple of times with some kind of wave attack. Since he absorbed Shadow's shadow, it's been rumored that some of his power at that time as well was also absorbed into him. In fact, it took the combined efforts of Shadow and Omega to beat him the first time, and then Rouge as well the second time, before resorting to resorting to taking up his two of his inhibitor rings, to finish off a whole army of Mephiles clones. So basically, Shadow just soloed a whole army of who was basically his most powerful antagonistic rival, basically by himself, just by releasing what could be just 50% of his power, or so. Hard to say because we don't know what Shadow's full power is when he takes up all of his inhibitor rings. So that's pretty much all I have to say on why Shadow the Hedgehog is stronger than you think. Although, that still doesn't really answer the question of how strong Shadow really is. What I could do is attempt to power scale this guy. Now keep in mind some of this might involve some headcanon when I talk about his hyperform, but just bear with me. So, in his base form, we could say that Shadow is city level, because at most the power of his Chaos Blast will probably be able to take a whole city if Shadow gets serious. When he goes into a super form and becomes Super Shadow, he could probably be considered to be low universal level. That's if I'm kind of lowballing it. And this is basically based off his fight against Solaris, who I consider to be a multi-universal level being, since he was able to devour 3 different paths of time, the past, present, and future. And it took the combined efforts of Super Sonic, Super Shadow, and Super Silver in order to defeat him. Now, low universal would basically mean that if Shadow really wanted to, he could take out the whole universe, well, in a super state, but it will take time, even with his chaos control abilities and stuff like that. Going from there, if we assume Shadow can go hyper, then his power increases to levels that I can't really say for sure where they stand. We know for sure that his speed gets an increase, because same with Sonic's hyperform, he gets a speed increase, but as far as we know, we don't know exactly how much of a power increase he would get out of this. But if the hyperform does give a power increase, and it's pretty hard to argue that it doesn't, then Shadow's chaos powers are thus taken to a whole new level, and at that point he would become high universal level. The difference being that Shadow in this state could destroy the whole universe with 1 Chaos Blast probably, or something like that. And keep in mind that still, all these level settings are still with his inhibitor rings on. So if he were to take them off, everything just gets bumped up to a whole new level. In his base form, Shadow will go from city level to, maybe higher city level. He can destroy large scale cities. If he takes off all of his inhibitor rings in a super state, he'd probably go from low universal to probably close to mid universal level, possibly. And in his hyper state, you're just done. But yeah, again, with his hyper form, it's still just hypothetical. I'm just using my own headcanon because we don't know if Shadow could actually go hyper or not. It's very likely that he should be able to do so. And as for a super form, well, we know he can do that, and that is just based off his feats against defeating Solaris along with Sonic and Silver. And you gotta remember, Solaris was a pretty powerful being, so yeah, do not take that fight lightly. With all that being said, hopefully Sonic Team will make a game that shows Shadow at his strongest potential, just going all out so that everyone can see just how strong he is. Because honestly, I think it's about time people just see Shadow when he's no longer holding back and unleashes all his power. I know it's not really a fighting game series, but still, just to be able to confirm exactly where he stands. because I mean, just given everything he's done and just how much power he's been given and just how close he is to rivaling Sonic in every way, it's hard to see. It's just hard for me to see Shadow as someone who's just lower tiered to Sonic or even below him when it comes to power. Now, I'm not saying that Sonic is weak. No, don't get me wrong here. Sonic is pretty powerful on his own, given his accomplishments and things like that. I'm just saying that when it comes to a fight to the death, to the finish, Shadow would probably win if he were to go all out. With Sonic, on the other hand, if they were having a straight up race, well then yeah, Sonic would win pretty much hands down. It'd be a close race, but between Sonic and Shadow, Sonic would win in that. But these fights, they're not races. And so, I'm just saying that it should be, to me, it should have been the Shadow who should have won all those fights in the past they had, but that's just me. Anyway, that's all I gotta say for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have anything to say, if you think I'm wrong, or if I said anything that's super inaccurate, please let me know in the comments, and in the future I'll try to state them in other videos I make of this kind. So yeah, until next time, this has been Spawnazilla, and yeah, see ya.